Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
What you drinking there, buddy?
You know what? It's something new. Black coffee.
I got a half a cup today.
No, you did not.
I got a half a cup.
Half a cup of what?
Coffee.
So in that 40-ounce cup that's sitting in front of you, you only got 20 ounces?
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Why bother?
Exactly. Why would you order half a cup of coffee?
Half measures. I'm sorry.
I get
see,
it.
see where I'm going?
God, man, I get it.
Yeah, we got a
God,
topic.
that really ties in.
Yeah.
You are absolutely brilliant sometimes.
Yeah, we have a topic today that Glenn introduced to me this week. He said, let's talk about half measures. And I said, what? He goes, half measures. We stood at a turning point. You asked for this protection and care with complete abandon, And I'm like, wait, what? And so that was my intro.
That was such a great bring in because you know what? For half a cup of coffee, why bother?
Why
right?
bother?
Or
why have a big cup with only half a cup of coffee in it?
Totally right. Or here's what folks will tie in with. The 10th wonder of the world. Why would you leave half a drink on your dinner table at the restaurant?
Who does that?
I mean, I think that's a mental issue. I'm not looking to make fun of mental issues, but I mean, come on. How do you leave half a drink
I know.
on the dinner table, right?
I know.
But no, dude, that's a great way to bring in half measures. You kind of call it.
Well, we'll circle back around to it. How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing great, man.
Good. I love Glenn, just so you know, in our P.O. box is, well, we don't have a P.O. box, so don't send him a shirt. But if we did have a P.O. box, you could send him a shirt because he's Mr. A billboard for sobriety. He's got all kinds of gear that he's picked up over the years or year. And, he does rotate them. So he's not wearing the same sobriety shirt every time I see him. But
what's so funny is I wouldn't even admit for many years, wouldn't even admit to myself that I was sober or I was an alcoholic, right? That took a long time.
No, it's a badge of honor, isn't it?
And then when I got into AA, I wouldn't tell anybody. I mean, I was ashamed, and I wouldn't tell anybody. Now I have 3 sober shirts, and I'm going to buy more because folks they do reach out, and I have a new hoodie that's coming, focused on sobriety. The guy sent me, and I actually wear them to the podcast studio. I wear them to the gym, and it's funny because I go to the grocery store after the gym, and so I'm out. I'm okay. I'm confident enough in my sobriety where I'm at.
Right.
Now I don't wear them to business meetings.
Right. I was going to ask about that. Right. And or
I haven't worn
a
the
high
church.
school reunion.
Yeah. I wouldn't care about the high school reunion, but because I just don't care. But I haven't worn them to school events, and I haven't worn them to church yet.
Okay. There you go.
But half measures. No, I love my soberware, and that's a great segue about your half a cup of coffee. And you threw me because I knew that wasn't a half a cup of coffee. Okay, so today we're talking about half measures.
Right.
So, if you've been in the rooms of AA, if you've been around for 20 minutes, there's a reading that is a part of every meeting that I've ever been at, every AA meeting. And we start the meeting by reading how it works.
Right.
And what works, right? How AA works.
And that's found on pages 58 to 59 of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And
the blue big book.
The big blue book, right?
Right. And chapter 5, right.
Right.
So I like to read it.
Okay.
Or just that portion of it that relates to half measures. And then we can banter about it.
Okay.
Remember that we deal with alcohol. Cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. We're your sponsor. May you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
So half measures availed us nothing. So having a half a cup of coffee, why do it?
Why do it?
You might as well not do it.
Right.
In fact, there's people that I've known. In fact, I kind of reconnected with one of them this week, and he is the king of half measures. And what he admitted, and he's out drinking now, and he's never coming back to AA again, and he mocks AA, and he knows it all better. And he is one of those guys that's knocking the yets off his list one at a time. And it is going to get, my projection, it's going to get really bad for him. If the past dictates the future, what has happened to him will continue happening, right? But he was a king of half measures, and what he said was, AA is, or what he said and what we've talked about is AA really messed up his drinking.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah,
Because now he knows there's a solution out there. He knows he's not living in the solution. He's still living in the pain. And it's almost like he's sitting back waiting for the next yet to get across his left, because it's going to.
Sure. Right. And it's so unfortunate.
And the reason why I say that is he said to me, a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, whatever, when we started talking, he says, I will never get a DUI. He goes, I'm too smart for that.
To get one?
6 months later, he calls me up, Glenn, I just got a DUI. Yeah. I mean, it's just how this stuff works.
Right. Yeah. It's
so half measures.
Half measures, yeah, right. So, the Webster calls a half measure a partial, half-hearted, or weak line of action. For me, I think as we look at that paragraph and it starts talking about alcohol being cunning, baffling, and powerful, and it is all three of those things, because one day you think you're not going to get a DUI and the next day you got DUI, right? How did that happen? How did the smartness end up with it all? But I think that the half my measure is to not take the first sip of alcohol. The other half of my measure is to do something to improve my step, so I'm not doing the same things I was doing when I was drinking, right? So if I continue to go to the liquor store and buy alcohol even though I'm not drinking, what's changed?
Yeah, so let's banter a bit. Let's brainstorm or grocery list some examples of half measures, right? Because people out there and say, okay, I get Webster and I get Google, and the way I look at it, the opposite of half measures is all in.
That's right. It's full measure.
All in, right?
Greatest degree,
full
largest amount
right?
possible.
Full cup of coffee.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So people are like, well, let's give some examples, because some people may think that they are all in.
Okay.
But maybe they're on the half measure list.
Sure. Go to AA meetings, but don't work the steps.
Right. So let's just kind of banter what half measures, or more technical term, working AA half-ass.
Right. Sure. Okay. Let's go to honesty. Let's say honesty in a full measure is being blatantly honest, and half measure is leaving out certain facts. Hey.
Or still lying.
Therefore still lying. Right. Therefore.
Right. So, for example, working with a sponsee, and I'm on the phone with him. I can tell he's lit. He's like, man, I haven't, I was 6 months, man. I got 6 months sober. And he's lying to me, right? That's half measures. You're not going to get anywhere if you're bullshitting yourself or your sponsor.
Right.
You're just not, period. Right. Okay, good one. How about going to meetings when you feel like it?
Yeah, right. I was taught anyway from my sponsor, you go to meetings. It's just part of your program, because if you don't, that's where you're going to get fed the information that you apply in your life, right? So it's a starting point. I mean, I could go read the book every day and not go to meetings. And, the first 164 pages doesn't tell me to go to meetings. But what happens is that I go to meetings and I learn about the first 164 pages of the book.
Right. So I kind of penciled some of these in based on my own experiences when I worked the program half-ass.
Right.
And okay.
So you're saying don't go to meetings only when you feel like it, is working the program halfway.
Yes.
Okay.
So working it all in is you look at your week ahead and say, okay, I'm going to go to 7 meetings this week. I'm going to go to 3 meetings this week. Whatever's good for you and your sponsor. Just work that out with your sponsor. Get it on the calendar. And when you wake up in the morning, you're going to go to a 7 a.m. meeting, and your brain says, man, you're tired. You're up late. You couldn't sleep well. Your sleep sucked. Why don't you pass this morning? Right?
No, it's so funny you said that, because this week I met with my sponsor, and we talked about the difference between meetings fitting into your schedule or scheduling your life around your meetings.
that changed my sobriety path. So half-ass is when I went to meetings when I felt like it. When I started to work the program and change my life is when I would look at the week ahead, because page 86 says plan your day. I did that day to day, and then I planned my week, right? And the first thing I fill into my week is my prayer meditation. The second thing I fill in for the week is what am I going to do for sobriety. Right. I do that before family. I do that before work. I do that before binge watching anything, which I don't do anymore. Right. So, so when I wake up, I go to those meetings because it's on my schedule. I go whether I feel like it or not.
That's right. Okay. Excellent.
Next one is working at half-ass is when I go to meetings. I read the book of, AA, the big book, and I change the words.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. I love
being half-ass.
I love that, and I got to tell you, if I gave you $1 for every time I quoted you on there is a line in the big book that says there is a solution. Not there was a solution. Not there could be a solution for the few privileged people. There is a solution. I love that, and you hang on every word. You've kind of taught me that over my journey.
Yeah, for me, and I'm a student of others, and I sit there in rooms and people with 30 years, or real prominent people that you think are prominent in the program, they tell themselves when they sit there and say, well, I don't like how that's written. Here's how I took that, and here's how I would write it, and here's how I want to live it based on these words. Dude, you might as well not come to the meeting.
Yeah, right.
Because you're not listening. You're not changing. You are exposing your ego. You're importing your ego. That reminds me of the, I'm mocking this, but it reminds me of those sober programs that are create your own.
Yeah, right.
Dude, I did that for 15 years.
How'd that work?
Well, let's play the game. What detox is going into next?
Right.
I mean, how in the world can you fix the problem with the same brain that created it?
Somebody said you can't unlock the door with a different set of keys. That I don't know. I messed that up. But
that was almost good. I think I need to think on that.
That was profound. I got one for you.
But don't change the words, man. If you're going to surrender, right? If you're going to bake a cake, follow the recipe.
Got it. Love it. I got one for you.
All right.
Self-service versus serving, right? So am I doing this program for me, or am I living the 12th step and passing this on to the next? Am I working with others? If I'm just doing it for me and worried only about my sobriety, I think that's a half measure. I think the full measure is doing it, working it for me, helping the next struggling alcoholic get better, and therefore that helps me get better. But I think living in one direction is a half measure for me.
Right. So for me, that's still a cluster because I'm sitting there saying, well, in my mind, I'm really trying to serve others, but yet look at me, I'm benefiting.
Yeah,
so
right.
I don't know on that, but right. I love that one.
Okay.
Okay. Next example of half measure. Ready? Connecting with your sponsor when you feel like it, or taking the easy way out and tossing him a text. Right? Playing the game, and I'm saying this because I play the game. Right?
I'm smirking over here.
I know. I see you smirking
because I sent 3 of those texts this week. Right.
So I for several years with my sponsor, and I love my sponsor. He is a lighthouse for me. I just got a picture of him. I'm going to put him up on my office wall. But I would send him a text with the sheer objective of letting him know everything's okay. Well, I am a total train wreck. I mean, some of the times I was drinking and I'd say, oh, man, great day. Love this sober day. Walked out of a meeting. It was all bullshit.
Yeah, right.
And so, connecting when I feel like it, especially early in sobriety, connect with your sponsor follow his suggestions, instructions, whatever, wax on, wax off. But connect with him. But understand this. Get out of the text. Get on the phone. A 3-minute phone call is better than 500 texts. More valuable. It just is. So half measures is, hey, I'll just connect when I want to.
Right.
Next one is taking shortcuts on steps. Right? Working them half-assed. Right? Working them just to get through them. Reminds me when I was in rehab, I would do they were comprehensive, literary works of art. Nobel Peace Prize winning, no, it's not Nobel, Pulitzer, right?
Pulitzer Prize.
I get a Pulitzer Prize on my 32-page step 4. right? It was all just words, right? I was taking a shortcut.
Right.
While on the surface, it looked like, I mean, those counselors were like, oh my God, this guy Glenn's really got it. He's going to live a great path of sobriety. On the way home, I drank.
Right.
So be real and work them comprehensively. Don't just shortcut it. Spend the time. Take the time.
Yeah, and I can only speak for me, but I dug so deep. I don't know how long it's supposed to take. Again, nowhere in the first 164 pages does it say, the guys in the early days did these steps very rapidly. I'm not advocating doing them rapidly or doing a step a year. I don't know. That's not the point. The point is when you do them, take as much time. This is when I work with guys, because this is how it was worked with. Take as much time to be fearless and thorough on that step. When you feel you've been fearless and thorough in full measure, then move on to the next step.
Love it. Okay. Next one is not committing to social events. So, being half-assed, like going to meetings when I want to. Early in sobriety, you're trying to figure a lot of stuff out, and you hear about, the AA picnic is coming up. Oh, they have AA bowling on Tuesday nights. All these weird, I literally thought weird stuff. Guy asked me out for coffee. No. I took the easy way out, on so much stuff. And there was so much good stuff going on within the community, people that'll love on you and connect with you and will listen to you and just give you some insights and some tips on how to get through situations, and you'll learn from them. And you're also helping them. They're learning from you, right? But, half measures is like, hey, I'll go to the AA meetings, but I ain't doing that. AA picnic? Are you kidding me? I ain't doing that. Or, hey, let's go to a sober living house and go to a meeting and a dinner at a sober living house. I ain't doing that. I can't tell you all the value in all that stuff, in being social in the community. And for me, and you don't have to do this, but for me, a majority of my relationships in my life today are, the quality relationships. I'm not talking about business, surface level, are AA related. Yeah. And I do events. So I have to dinner with my, sponsors, girlfriend, and my wife and I, example of half measures, I get invited out to dinner and I'm like, I'm busy.
Yeah, right.
Because I was, but I made time for it.
AA retreats. Seriously, Mike in 2017, if you would have told him he would have went to a AA retreat, he would have said, how weird is that? A life changer for me. When I went and I didn't want to go, and I didn't want to be even driving there on the way there, and I didn't want to get out of the car, and I didn't want to say hello to anybody. I didn't want to be at that AA retreat. A life changer. I could tell you to this day the guys that were there and the impact it made on my life.
So half measures, and I did the same thing. And retreats are the one thing I do that's on my list of 23 things I do a day, a week, a month, a year to stay sober. I go to one retreat a year. And it's not that I'm not open to more. I'd love to go to more because I get so much out of them, but I just don't have time. Right. But I go to one a year, and I've gone to the same one 6 years now, I think. And it's so important to me. But half measures, it's easy to sit in the back seat.
Sure.
And say, you know what, it's not for me. Who cares if it's not for you?
Right.
Get your ass there and try it out.
That's right. And you could
go
be
to
there.
sober bowling.
That's right.
And try it out.
You could be there for the next guy.
Absolutely. But early sobriety, if you're doing a half-ass, you don't care about the next guy. Let's just face it, you don't, right?
Right. That's right.
So, all right, man, half measures.
You segued. You used half-assed as many times as you used half measures. I don't think Bill W., who wrote the book, said it was half-assed. But I think that's what he meant.
I think he was thinking that.
And so it got me to thinking, I'm 63 years old, right? And I've never heard this line before. But if you're half-assed, who cares if you're half-assed? Well, it means it's going to pull focus. People are going to look and go, they're going to focus on the ass part of you because you only got half of it. So.
No, I like that. And hey, here's the thing about being half-assed is I know when I'm half-assed.
Right.
In my brain, I can't lie to myself. I know I am giving 50%. And that today, that messes me up. So I try to be all in. All in is my goal. I'm not even sure what all in looks like. I think I'm all in, but I might be 90%. Who
Doesn't
knows?
it change a little bit? I mean, our reality change because
Well, I think the pie gets bigger. I
Sure,
think
the
your
pie gets
capabilities and
bigger. I like
competencies
that.
get bigger, and you can do more. Sobriety is a superpower. You can do more, and blah blah blah. But what I know is I am not 50% today.
right.
I might not be 100. I'm not sure where I'm at, but I know I'm not half-assed today.
Well,
I know I'm not half measures.
Yeah, got to stay off the edge of the cliff. You got to run hard away from it. Full measure.
All right, brother, man. Don't be half measures. Fill that cup of coffee all the way up.
Full cup.
I love it.
All right,
Love you,
man.
man.
Have a great
Take
day.
care, brother.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@sober.coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.